You don't belong in this family. My brother crossed his arms over his chest, that smug twist on his face, when I knew all too well by then. You have no place in our family, he said. He said it so sweetly, so dripping with fake concern, that for one brief second, I almost believed he was trying to help me. Then Mom, seated at the kitchen table, calmly sipping her tea, added, "He's right." Dad didn't even look up from his phone. He just grumbled, "Maybe it's better this way." I stood there for a moment, staring at the three of them, trying to figure out if this had been planned in advance. I could practically hear the rehearsals in my brother's room, him charming and manipulative as ever, talking them into it. The way he always did. Convincing, scheming, controlling. I'd always been the one person who didn't buy into his act, and maybe that's why he hated me so much. I didn't leave because it was funny, but it was funny in how absurd it all felt. I grabbed my jacket off the back of the chair. "Guess I'll save you the trouble." And I walked out. Nobody stopped me. My brother grinned, pleased with himself. Mom returned her attention to her tea like she didn't care. Dad didn't even lift his head. I closed the door behind me and took a deep breath. The thing is, it didn't hurt the way they probably wanted it to. I wasn't like my brother, who lived for their approval, who basked in their praise like some golden child. I'd known for years that I wasn't their favorite. They tolerated me, sure, but love and support? That was reserved for him. And honestly, I was fine with that. I had my own life, my own friends, my own sense of self. Still, there was a sting. Not from them letting me go, but from how easy it was for them. No hesitation. No second thoughts. No, wait, let's talk about this. Just silence. That night, I crashed at my best friend's place. When I told her what happened, we laughed over a bottle of cheap wine, joking about how my brother probably saw himself as king of the family now. "Honestly, sounds like you're better off," she said. She was right. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something about all of this wasn't just about me. Because the truth is, Patrick had been laying the groundwork for months. Small comments here and there. Subtle digs. Planting the idea in our parents' heads that I didn't belong, that I wasn't like them. It wasn't enough for him to be the favorite. He wanted me gone. 2 days later, they were packing for a family vacation. A vacation I hadn't even known about until I saw the suitcases by the front door. Patrick, of course, made a big show of it, loudly giving directions, overseeing our parents like he was some kind of trip coordinator. And the whole time, he kept looking at me, waiting for a reaction. When I gave him nothing, he finally turned and smirked. "So, you're just going to sit here, all alone? What are you going to do without us?" I smiled, the kind of calm, unconcerned smile I knew would piss him off the most. "I hope they take you to a mental hospital on this trip," I said. "Maybe they'll have room for Mom and Dad too." His face instantly went red. Next thing I knew, he was screaming, actual tears rolling down his face. My parents, of course, jumped to comfort him. Shooting me looks like I'd just committed a crime. "You're so cruel," Mom whispered, shaking her head. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" I shrugged. Because I'd rather be sane. They left, and I felt nothing but relief. For the first time in years, the house was quiet. No endless criticism. No passive-aggressive comments. No manipulative power plays. I made popcorn, curled up on the couch, and watched my favorite shows, welcoming the silence. But peace never lasts in a family like mine. For 2 days, it was absolute bliss. Music playing as loud as I wanted, dancing in the kitchen, catching up on all the things I couldn't enjoy when they were around. Then the call started. The first one came at 10 a.m. I was making pancakes, my phone buzzing on the counter. It was Patrick. I rolled my eyes and silenced it. Whatever dramatic emergency he'd cooked up, I wanted no part of it. 5 minutes later, another call, then a third. By the time I finished eating, 7 missed calls. I stared at my phone, debating whether to block his number. But a tiny part of me was curious. What could possibly be so urgent that he wouldn't just text? The 8th call came. I sighed and picked up, mainly to tell him to leave me alone. "What?" I answered, making no effort to hide my annoyance. "Where the hell have you been?" he shrieked. "I've been calling you for hours." "And why do you think that is?" I said flatly. "What do you want?" "We're in trouble," he said, voice shaking. "I need your help." "Trouble?" I leaned against the counter. "What kind of trouble?" He hesitated, a rare thing for my brother. He only hesitated when he was about to lie. "We got robbed," he finally said. I raised an eyebrow. "You got robbed? On your perfect little family vacation?" "Yes," he snapped. "Some guy stole all of our money. Mom and Dad are freaking out, and we're stuck here with nothing." I didn't know who else to call. Now I was intrigued. "Why not call Margaret?" I asked, referring to his wife. Silence. "Oh." I smirked. "You didn't tell her, did you?" What happened? Did the guy steal more than just your money? Shut up, he hissed. This isn't funny. Oh, it's hilarious, I said. Let me guess. You went somewhere you shouldn't have, and now you're too embarrassed to admit it. Am I close? More silence. Then, are you going to help us or not? I thought about it. On one hand, this was exactly the kind of mess he deserved. On the other, watching him squirm was deeply satisfying. Let me think about it, I said. In the meantime, maybe one of those locals you like to hang around with can help. I'm sure they'd be thrilled to assist. Oh, you little. I hung up. For the next several hours, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Call after call. Text after text. Please, we need your help. Send money before the end of the day. Mom left me a voicemail, her voice dripping with guilt-tripping disappointment. I thought you were better than this. We're your family. I laughed. Family, I muttered. Didn't you just tell me I have no place in this family? I sent a single text to my brother. Sorry, but I'm just a roommate, remember? Then I turned my phone off. 2 days later, I woke up to one final text. We're coming home. Thanks for nothing. I shrugged and went about my day. Not my problem. But when they finally returned, that's when things really got interesting. I leaned back against the wall, crossing my arms. I'm sorry, I said, though my tone made it clear that I wasn't. I didn't know roommates were supposed to cover each other's holidays. My dad glared at me. This isn't a joke, he snapped. We were stranded in a foreign country. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to beg for help? Humiliating? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You mean like being told you have no place in your own family? Because I wouldn't know anything about that. My mother let out a frustrated sigh. Why must you always be so impossible? We're your family, and families assist one another. Oh, now we're family? I said, smiling. That's rich. Last week, I was nothing but a burden. Or have you forgotten? My brother, who had been pacing up and down like a caged animal, suddenly exploded. You're such a child. Do you know how much stress you've caused us? Do you even care? I stared at him, unflinching. No, I don't. And you know why? Because you don't care about me. You never have. All you've ever done is bring me down, and now you expect me to get you out of this mess? Sorry, I'm done. The room fell silent. For once, my brother had nothing to say. My mom looked like she wanted to speak, but for once, she couldn't find the words. Then Margaret, who had quietly unpacked by the door, spoke up. He's right. Everyone turned to look at her. What? My brother snapped, his voice rising. He's right. Margaret repeated, calm but firm. You treat him like garbage and then wonder why he won't help you. Maybe if you respected him a little more, he'd feel differently. The silence was so thick you could hear a pin drop. My brother looked as if he'd been slapped. I can't believe you're taking his side. I'm not taking sides, Margaret said. I'm just saying you can't treat people like they're nothing and then expect them to come running when you're in trouble. For the first time in years, I felt like someone finally saw me. But of course, the moment didn't last. My dad, ever the peacemaker, intervened. Look, we've all been through a lot this week, he said. Let's just move on and put this behind us. Sure, I said, grabbing my bag from the couch. Let's put it behind us. In fact, I slung the bag over my shoulder. Let's put it all behind us because I'm done. Done, my mom asked, frowning. I'm moving out, I said. I'm packing my things tonight. My brother rolled his eyes. Oh, please. You've said that before. This time, I mean it, I said. And I'm not coming back. I went upstairs before they could say anything else, leaving them in stunned silence. That night, I packed my bags and called my grandmother, the only sane person in our family, as far as I'd ever known. When I told her what had happened, she didn't seem surprised. Come stay with me, she said. You don't need them. And just like that, I was free. The next morning, I didn't even say goodbye. I just left. My grandmother lived an hour away in a cozy little cottage on the edge of a small town, Mitchellston. The kind of place where neighbors bring over pies for no reason and everyone knows your name. When I arrived, she greeted me with a warm hug and a plate of cookies, as she always did. You're better off without them, she said, patting my hand. Stay as long as you need to. I thought that was it. That I was finally free from my family's chaos. That I could finally breathe. But of course, it wasn't that simple. 2 days into my new home, I got a call from an unknown number. I ignored it at first, assuming it was just another scam. But when the same number called again, something told me to answer. Hello, I said carefully. Is this your name? The voice was official. Too serious. Yes, I said. Who's asking? This is Detective Perkins with the county police, he said. We're investigating a report that involves your family. My stomach dropped. What kind of report? Your brother has filed a complaint against you, he said, his voice neutral. He claims you threatened his safety before he left on vacation. I need to ask you a few questions. For a second, I thought he was joking. Threats? I let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. You gotta be kidding me. That's a lie. I understand this is a shock, he said, his voice measured. But we take all complaints seriously. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning? I didn't answer. I just hung up, my head spinning. This was a new low. My brother actually filed a report against me? What? Was he trying to get me arrested? I told my grandmother everything. She shook her head. That boy has no shame, she muttered. But don't worry. He doesn't have a leg to stand on. Let's go fix this. The next day, we went to the police station. Detective Perkins wasn't what I expected. He was young, sharp-eyed, and surprisingly kind. He asked me a few questions, and it quickly became clear that my brother's story didn't hold up. He said you threatened to hurt him, Perkins explained. But when we asked for details, he couldn't give us any. His story kept changing. Of course, I scoffed. Because he's lying? Perkins nodded. That's what it looks like. Frankly, it seems like a personal vendetta. We're dropping the case. But I wanted to warn you. People like this don't give up easily. You might want to keep your distance. I thanked him and left, feeling a strange mix of relief and anger. My brother had always been manipulative, but this was next level. When I got back to my grandmother's house, she handed me a letter. This came for you while you were out, she said. It was from Margaret. Confused, I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. I need to talk to you. It's important. Call me. I stared at the note, my heart pounding. Why would Margaret reach out to me? What could be so important? Despite my better judgment, I called her. Thank God, she said as soon as she picked up. I didn't know if you'd even read the letter. What's going on? I asked, suspicious. It's your brother, she said, her voice tense. He's hiding something. Something big. I don't know who else to turn to. My grip on the phone tightened. What do you mean he's hiding something? There was a pause. Margaret hesitated. I don't want to say too much over the phone, she finally said. Can we meet in person? I almost said no. After everything my brother had pulled, the last thing I wanted was to get dragged deeper into his mess. But something in Margaret's voice caught me. She sounded desperate. Fine, I said, but this better be good. We decided to meet at a diner off the highway the following morning. When I walked in, Margaret was already there, looking more anxious than I had ever seen her. She spotted me immediately and waved me over. As soon as I sat down, she leaned in, lowering her voice to almost a whisper. Your brother lied to everybody, she said. About everything. I scoffed, leaning back in my seat. Tell me something I don't already know. No, she insisted, her voice urgent. I mean everything. The robbery? It wasn't random. He planned it. I froze. What are you talking about? I asked, my heart pounding. Margaret swallowed hard and glanced around, as if someone might be listening. The whole thing. He set it up. Hired people to make it look like a break-in while you were still living there. He was trying to frame you. I stared at her, my mind racing. Why the hell would he do that? Margaret hesitated, then exhaled sharply. Because of the money. Your parents' inheritance. He was trying to get you written out of it, make you look unstable, dangerous even, so they'd cut you off completely. But something went wrong, and now he's desperate to cover his tracks. My stomach churned. This was beyond anything I had ever imagined, even for him. Do my parents know? Margaret shook her head. No, and they won't believe it if you tell them. But I have proof. She slid a flash drive across the table. Security footage, text messages, bank transfers. It's all here. I picked up the drive, turned it over in my fingers. So what do you want me to do with this? Whatever you want, she said. I just couldn't keep quiet anymore. For the first time in years, I had something my brother couldn't twist, manipulate, or talk his way out of. He had tried to destroy me, but now I held the evidence that could destroy him. I stood up, pocketing the flash drive. Thanks, Margaret. You just gave me exactly what I needed. As I walked out of the diner, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Power. He thought he could bury me. Now it was my turn. Did you enjoy the story? Want more? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more wild and unhinged Reddit stories. Your support means a lot and helps my channel grow.